Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Thank you all for joining me for this Friday night halaqah, this circle with the Muslim community in the greater Toronto area. And in this meeting tonight, in this family night gathering, we're discussing Surat al-Baqara, verses number 6 to 20. To proceed, last week we discussed the 5 verses. That's verses number 1 to 5. And you will recall that those verses were a description of the believers, those who are muttaqun. They are the ones who are aware of their duty to Allah. These are their beliefs, and these are the ones who will be successful. Now we come to verses 6 to 7. Which deal with the deniers of faith, in alladhina kafaru, those who disbelieve. I've called them here in my own words, deniers of faith, because as I will explain, the disbelievers who are spoken about here are not just simply the people who do not happen to know about Islam, but they are people who actively deny, even oppose the faith. So maybe if I do this again, I will call them not deniers of faith merely, but opposers of faith, but I'll have to find a suitable English term to capture that nicely. And then finally, the verses 8 to 20 describe the hypocrites. So here we can see at a glance that up to verse 20 in this surah, we are dealing with 3 different kinds of people. First, the believers. Second, the deniers of faith, and finally, the hypocrites. So since we've already discussed the believers last week, now we will deal with the deniers of faith. So verses number 6 to 7 about those who deny the faith. All right, so verse number 6 is where we're starting now. And in verse number 6, we have إن الذين كفروا سواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. Now, if you're trying to follow me, and I hope you are, then if you know how to read the Arabic script, then you can read with me from the first line there. If not, then you can try to read the same Arabic words spelled out using English letters. This is called a transliteration. So you can read the transliteration that comes under it. Now, you will notice that above some vowels, I, U, and A, above some of these, there is a bar. That bar just simply indicates that in that place, the vowel is long. So inna, the vowel is short. There's no bar there. Alladhina, all of the vowels are short. Well, the 2 A's are short, except the I is long. Kafaru, the U is long, so it's U, not U. Kafaru. And then sawa'un, so the A is long there, sawa'un. So that's how you make sense of those bars. So I'll read it one more time. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Innal ladhina kafaru sawa'un alayhim أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. Now, the English translation. As for the faithless, it is the same to them whether you warn them or do not warn them, they will not have faith. You will notice here that the Quranic text, the translation and transliteration are from the website al-Quran.info. This, from the website's own description, was set up by a couple of students in Copenhagen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them. And I find this website easy to use for this. It's easy to cut and paste, and you get the accurate rendering in the pasted result. And I will be using this throughout this presentation. My thanks to them and my acknowledgement of their great help. So what does this passage say? As for the faithless, you recall from my introduction that I said that I will not just simply take this to be people who are without faith, but generally, kafaru, the verb kafara in Arabic means to cover. And the farmer is called a kafir in this sense because the farmer places the seed in the ground and then covers it with soil. This is why in the Quran, farmers are referred to in the plural in one verse as kuffar. So it doesn't only mean those who deny faith. So in the sense of faith, what does it mean? It means those who know the truth, but they are covering it up. So these are not just simply people who did not know about the religion of Islam. These are people who have come to see the truth, but in some way they are covering it up. But in any case, without going into their psychology as to thinking about, do they know the truth, does not know the truth, how could they live with themselves? We should think of these people who are described here because of the description that is given, that they're not just even ordinarily persons who are not Muslims, but they are those who actively deny and oppose the faith. So what is the outcome for them? The next verse 7 says, ختم الله على قلوبهم وعلى سمعهم وعلى أبصارهم غشاوة ولهم عذاب عظيم. Allah has set a seal on their hearts and their hearing, and there is a blindfold on their sight, and there is a great punishment for them. So now one might be asking, all right, so these people already disbelieve. What's the sense of Allah putting a seal on their hearts? Now, we must understand that in order to explain this, we need to understand that everything that's happening in the world is happening due to natural causes on the one hand, and also due to divine causation on the other hand. So these are like two sides of the coin, the same coin. And often when we think of something happening, there are two different responses from a believer. A believer might say, oh, this is the doing of Allah. And a non-believer may say, oh, this is all happening by natural causation. But it doesn't have to be the like one or the other. A believer can be saying this is happening by natural causation, but also at the same time, it is happening by the doing of Allah Azza wa Jal. So I drink some water and I say, Alhamdulillah. I'm drinking some water. I say Bismillah before drinking it. So this, I'm giving credit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the fact that He provided the water for me. But I'm not denying at the same time that this water came to me through a whole process. There are human beings involved in making it possible for me to have this water to drink today. So saying that it happens by divine causation is not denying the natural causation, and giving thanks to people who have helped us in some way. Thus acknowledging the natural causation, we are not denying divine causation. Now, what happens in the Quran is that sometimes there is a switch from divine causation to natural causation, and back to divine causation, and back to natural causation. Mostly, the Quran is describing things from the point of view of divine causation. Why? Because that's what the Quran is about. People have tended to neglect God, they have forgotten God. They have just looked at the things which are visible to them. They are concerned with the hayat dunya, the life of this world. And dunya, by definition, means that which is close by. So they're looking at the things which are within reach and which they can study. And they know the people who are involved, people who have done things, and they just credit things to natural causation. And the Quran is drawing our attention to divine causation. But the Quran is not sticking to the divine causation. Sometimes it's mentioning the divine causation, then in the next few words it is mentioning the natural causation, and then it goes back to the divine causation. So we have to watch for that. So in this verse, this is what is happening. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, as for those who disbelieve, as we saw in the previous verse, so their disbelief is by themselves. They chose disbelief instead of belief. Now, and now Allah is putting a seal on their hearts. So it's the two are happening simultaneously. The non-believers are disbelieving, and Allah is putting a seal on their hearts. It's not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took some good people, sealed up their hearts so that they couldn't believe, and now Allah sends a message to them. Now they're not going to believe naturally, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to put them into the hellfire. No, it's not like this. It is that these people have been struggling long and hard to oppose the faith of Islam. And that what happens as a result of that is that they, by their own doing, they are corrupting their own hearts. They're making their hearts dark in a spiritual sense, so that the truth cannot enter that heart. when it comes to that point, the heart has now become totally corrupt. A hadith explains that when we commit a sin, a spot forms on the heart. Now, it is in traditional language, this is mentioned as a black spot, but I will say a sin spot to avoid putting a color on it. Because we're becoming more and more sensitive in our modern world about the way in which people of color have been discriminated against. So let's call it a sin spot. So that sin spot is on the heart of the person. If the person repents, that spot is removed. If the person does not repent, it remains. And if that person commits more and more sins, then that heart eventually becomes covered with all of these sin spots. So then it becomes sealed and no truth can penetrate it. So the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is Khatam Allahu ala qulubihim. Allah has put a seal on their hearts. But we shouldn't understand this to mean that Allah took a good heart and sealed it up. We should understand that these people, by their own sinning and continuous opposition to the religion of Islam, they have sealed up their own hearts. But now we have switched from the human causation to now divine causation. Instead of Allah saying now that they have sealed up their own hearts, Allah is saying Allah sealed up their hearts, but it means the same thing. They have sealed up their own hearts, but we have switched from the natural causation to the divine causation in the same discourse, and we always have to be on the lookout for that. So Allah has put a seal on their hearts, and on their hearing and on their sight. There is a shield. Something is stopping them from seeing and hearing the message. وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ, and they will have a great punishment. There's something that is stopping them from hearing and seeing the message. It's not something external to them. It's not that Allah has put a kind of force field that blocks the revelation from reaching them. It is their own a mental block that they have developed by themselves. They don't want to hear anything of this message. They don't want to see the truth of this message. And this is the result, that their hearts are sealed. And then they will have a painful, a great punishment. Adabun azim. Now we go to verse number 8. And now verse number 8, verses 8 to 20, as I already pointed out, deal with the hypocrites. So who are hypocrites? They are two-faced persons. They pretend one thing when they're with one group, and then they admit the other thing when they're with the other group. They're two-faced individuals. So let's see the description of them here. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَقُولُ آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَبِالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَمَا هُمْ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. And among the people are those who say, we have faith in Allah and the last day, but they have no faith. So you see what's happening here? There are some people from among humankind in general who will say that they have faith, but in fact, they do not have faith. They're saying, Amanna, we believe, but in fact, they do not believe. The 9th verse, يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهَ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَمَا يَخْدَعُونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُمْ وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ. I'll read that one more time. يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهَ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَمَا يَخْدَعُونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُمْ وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ. They seek to deceive Allah and those who have faith, yet they deceive no one but themselves, but they are not aware. Now, everyone knows, of course, you can't deceive Allah. But here, the Quran is putting it in this way because the Quran uses a number of rhetorical devices to get its message across and to win people's minds over to the Quranic arguments. Sometimes the Quran uses a type of ridicule of what the other people are saying. So the Quran is being sarcastic in some ways. So it is as if they are trying to deceive Allah, which everybody knows you can't do. So the Quran is pointing to the foolishness of the whole exercise. If you believe, then you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows your belief. So and if you do not believe, you also know that that Allah knows that you do not believe. So what's the point of pretending, coming to the believers and saying, or professing that you believe? Are you trying to deceive Allah? That's what the Quran is trying to say to them. So it's as if they are trying to deceive Allah, but the irony is, وَمَا يَخْدَعُونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُمْ. They are not deceiving except themselves. They're only deceiving themselves. وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ, but they do not realize. And so here they're trying to deceive the believers. Well, people can feel that they're doing that, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, look, I'm taking this personally. You're coming to deceive my believers and my prophet, but don't think you can deceive them. Your attempts to deceive them only turn back on yourself, even though you do not understand that this is happening. Now we come to verse number 10. في قلوبهم مرض في قلوبهم مرض فزادهم الله مرضا وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْذِبُونَ. Now, I said عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. What did I say that? Because when you look at the transliteration there, it says عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. So that's how it is spelled in Arabic as well, with an N at the end of that word, alimun. But I'm saying alimum because in reciting the Quran, when we have a juxtaposition of two letters like this, the noon followed by the ba, we make the noon a meme. It just goes smoother in the pronunciation. Alimun bi, it's smoother to say alimum bi, because with the bi, the lips are going to touch, and with the noon, the lips do not touch. So we're just preparing for the bi in advance by making the lips touch now, and then it produces an M sound instead of the N sound. So I'll read that one more time. في قلوبهم مرض فزادهم الله مرضا ولهم عذاب أليم بما كانوا يكذبون. So the translation, there is a sickness in their hearts. Then Allah increased their sickness, and there is a painful punishment for them because of the lies they used to tell. Again, one might be asking, well, if there is a sickness in their hearts, why doesn't Allah cure them? Why does Allah increase their disease? Well, the same answer as before. We're switching here from human causation to divine causation. So who caused the sickness in their hearts? The people themselves. It's not Allah who caused them to be sick. Allah did not take a good heart and then caused it to be sick. No. The people, by their own corruption, by their own misdeeds, they're indulging in sins, their hypocrisy, going back and forth, trying to fool the believers and pass themselves off as believers themselves. They, through this hypocrisy, they have caused their own hearts to become sick. And now, by their continued hypocrisy again, they are causing their hearts to become even more sick. Even sicker. And now for this second part, now they're causing their hearts to become even more sick. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has flipped it and is now looking at it from the point of view of divine causation. So Allah caused their hearts to become more sick. But again, it's not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is deliberately causing their hearts to become more sick. It is they themselves that are causing their hearts to become more sick. But now it's like two sides of the coin. While they're causing their own hearts to become sick, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing the same. Maybe I can use an analogy here. So let's say I was sick and I went to my doctor, I got medication, I used the medication, now I'm better, well, alhamdulillah. So now I said alhamdulillah. That means I'm giving thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though I just described the whole process by which I became well. I'm giving thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah made me well, even though we are very clear there's a whole process behind it. I could thank the doctor. Doctor, you're a good doctor. You made me well. I can give thanks to the medicine. I can say this is good medicine. It made me well. I can give thanks to my own efforts. I can say through diet and exercise and using the right medication, taking all of the right measures, including seeing the doctor, I made myself well. Or in the final analysis, the believer can say, alhamdulillah, Allah is the one who did this. So even though there is a natural process, we're still saying alhamdulillah. And when we're saying alhamdulillah, we're not denying the natural process. In a similar way, somebody can make themselves ill by failing to exercise, by eating the wrong foods, by eating foods that are high in cholesterol, fatty foods, and so on, then we can say the person has made himself unwell. And the person is making himself sicker. Somebody is smoking cigarettes is making himself sick. Somebody is drinking alcohol is ruining his or her own health. But at the same time, we can say when this person dies, let's say a person smoked, got cancer, and they died of this cancer. Then in the end, who causes life and death? It is Allah. So Allah caused them to die. That's simple enough for us to say. But we don't mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of some kind of spitefulness, caused the person to die. We mean that the person ruined his own life by, similarly, if a person commits suicide, the person has actually ruined his own life. But we can say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused him to die on such and such a day and date and time. So there are two sides of it, the human causation or natural causation more generally, and on the other hand, the divine causation. And the Quran is switching back and forth between the two. And if you're not paying attention, you might get confused as a result of that. So in their hearts, there is a disease, and Allah would have cured them of their disease. That's why He sent the Quran to be a shifa, a cure. But they're not looking at this cure. Instead, they go on and on in their hypocrisy, and that increases the disease in their hearts. And now Allah has put it as the flip side of that by saying Allah has caused the increase in the disease in their hearts. And then they will have a painful punishment because of how they used to lie. And now we go to verse number 11. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. I know we have a few more verses to do, but we're actually getting to the end here because we've already laid the groundwork, and now we're going to wrap it up very quickly. So, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ قَالُوا إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُصْلِحُونَ. I'll read it one more time. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ قَالُوا إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُصْلِحُونَ. When they are told, do not cause corruption on the earth, they say, we are only reformers. So here we have some people, they're causing corruption on the earth, but in their own minds, it's as if they're doing good things. And when you talk to them, they're saying, oh, we're only trying to do good. We're reforming. We're making good, we're bringing about good results here. And then Allah's reply to that. That's in verse number 12. ألا إنهم هم المفسدون ولكن لا يشعرون. Look, they are themselves the agents of corruption, but they are not aware. Now, let's pause to think about this word mufsidun and tufsidu. When it's said to them, la tufsidu fil ard, do not commit corruption on the earth. So the Arabic word for corruption is fasad, which is mentioned again in the Quran, and here we see it twice. First, la tufsidu, this is the verbal form, in the plural, a negative command. La tufsidu, do not cause corruption. And then in verse number 12, humul mufsiduna, they are the corruptors. So this is the active participle in the plural, masculine plural. They are the mufsidun. They are the people causing this fasad. So fasad or corruption or chaos is something that the Quran is against. And the Quran is showing that this is the nature of the deniers of the faith. And in this case, the munafiqun. They are causing corruption. But the believers are not going to cause corruption. Believers will be law-abiding citizens. They look for calm and not chaos. They look for orderliness, and they try to maintain peace with everyone. So this is the opposite of fasad. So the hypocrites are committing this, they're causing this fasad, even though they do not realize it themselves. Then we go to verse number 13. So you see we're moving rapidly now. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا كَمَا آمَنَ النَّاسُ قَالُوا أَنُؤْمِنُ كَمَا آمَنَ السُّفَهَاءُ أَلَا إِنَّهُمْ هُمُ السُّفَهَاءُ وَلَكِنْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. When it is said to them, let me read it because I was going from my own mind there. Okay, when they are told, And when they are told, believe like the people who have believed, they say, shall we believe like the fools who have believed? Look, they are themselves the fools, but they do not know. So you approach these people and say to them, okay, believe. Look, other people have believed already. Why aren't you believing like the believers believe? They're gonna say, okay, should we believe as those foolish people believe? So they're referring to the Muslims as foolish people, and Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is turning it back to them and saying, "Allah innahum humus sufaha'u walakin la ya'lamun." Look, they're the ones who are foolish, but they do not know. So they don't realize that they're causing the corruption, and they don't know that they are the foolish ones. They think that they have one up on the believers. They're doing great. They're telling their lies, and people are just going with that. But Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is setting up a new reality here. Okay, so verse number 14. وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَالُوا آمَنَّا. When they meet the faithful, they say, we believe. Okay, let me read the whole Arabic here. وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَالُوا آمَنَّا وَإِذَا خَلَوْا إِلَى شَيَاطِينِهِمْ قَالُوا إِنَّا مَعَكُمْ إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُسْتَهْزِئُونَ. I'll try to read it from the transliteration to see if there's anything there that needs further elaboration, because I sense that there's something in the Arabic there that elides, and we need to see how it appears in the transliteration as well. So reading from the W where it says W-A, وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ. So how does that go? So laqu, because it has the bar over the U, we want to make that a long U sound, laqu. And then the next word starts without a vowel. So how are we going to start a word like this without a vowel, like a double L? It's not going to work. It's almost like yama here. We have some words like that in English, but I mean I can't think of too many words. Yama is one word, but you see the L gets transformed into a Y, so we have a kind of a vowel sound there, a Y sound. Y is not a vowel, but in some words it is used in the place of a vowel to give us the break between harsh letters like consonants. So how are we going to do that? In Arabic, what we do is we join the laqu with alladhina. So we're going to make it laqulladhina, even though it is marked with a bar, which means it's a long sound. And in Arabic, it is spelled with a waw, which indicates the long vowel there, laqu. But here we're going to make it short to join it with the next word. So, وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَالُوا آمَنَّا وَإِذَا خَلَوْا إِلَى شَيَاطِينِهِمْ قَالُوا إِنَّا مَعَكُمْ إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُسْتَهْزِئُونَ. So that's the only thing we did there that's different. So the kulladina. Now let's look at the English translation. When they meet the faithful, they say, we believe. But when they're alone with their devils, they say, we are with you. We are only deriding them. That means we are just making fun of them. We're making jokes with them. So they come to meet the believers. They say, we believe. When they go back to their shayateen, here we can see that shayateen is actually a reference to people who are opposed to the religion of Islam. And the hypocrites are going back and forth between the believers and those who are opposed to the religion of Islam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling them shayateen. They're shayateen in human forms and in human form. So there is a certain degree of ridicule and caricature here from the part of the Quran with regards to those who are opposed to the religion of Islam. But you can see now that my point about those who disbelieve is not just the ordinary disbeliever. These are disbelievers who are strongly opposed to Islam, so strong that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can refer to them as shayateen. Whereas most of the people you know around you, your neighbors, your co-workers, your classmates, and so on, even though they're not Muslims, you wouldn't describe them as shayateen. They're not opposed to the religion of Islam. It's just that they have not thought much about the religion of Islam. They may not know much. They have grown up in a particular context. That's all they know. And they're following the religion of their forefathers, or maybe no religion at all, because they live in a modern secular society in which religion plays a very latent role. So they're not bad people, the people we know. So we're not going to apply these verses to them. But by reading these verses, we get to understand various trends and pressures within society. And we know to be aware of and to stay away from the negative pressures and to hold up our own faith for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So a few more verses to continue with. And now things become simpler because we've laid the groundwork. It's going to be wrapped up within a few minutes now. So verse number 15, Allahu yastahzi'u bihim wa yamudduhum fi tughyanihim ya'mahun. Let me read it again. Allahu yastahzi'u bihim wa yamudduhum fi tughyanihim ya'mahun. It is Allah who derides them and leaves them bewildered in their rebellion. So whereas they say that they are making fun of the believers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, okay, Allah is making fun of them. So in a way, it's like Allah is looking at them and looking at their behavior, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, look at these people. They think they can fool Allah. They're making this pretense, but I know all of these secrets. What's going on with them? These people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in a way smiling at what they're doing. They cannot harm Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're only harming themselves. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says وَيَمُدُّهُمْ. He is extending them in their tughyan, in their rebellion. So again, we must realize that it is not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is deliberately causing them to be in an extended rebellion. This is the flip side of the same coin. They are increasing their rebellion, but at the same time, it is being put from the divine perspective. Let me use another example here to hopefully seal the point, because I know it's a difficult one. For 1,000 years, Muslims have misunderstood this point, and we can find this misunderstanding in many of the books written, especially on the subject of al-Qada wal-Qadr, the predetermination and the control of God on his creation. So they stress the divine causation to the extent that you will think that the human being has no part in this. And when they want to blame the human being, they stress the human responsibility as if God didn't have anything to do with this. So then they go back and forth, but they do not integrate the two. I've been explaining throughout this sitting tonight that to integrate the two, we have to see them as two sides of the same coin. And we have to understand that the Quran is sometimes explaining it from the one side and sometimes explaining it from the other side. And it's going back and forth, but the progression is the same. So if we have, let's say, a sequence of events, 1, 2, 3, as the sequence of events, 1, 2, 3. But this sequence of events can be described in two ways, from the divine side, from the natural side. So we can say 1D, that's the divine action. 1N, that's the natural action or natural causation. 2D, that's the second action from the divine side. 2N would be the second action from the natural causation side. 3D would be the third action from the divine side. 3N would be the third action from the natural side. I hope you can follow that. Now, let's say I hear the adhan being called. And nowadays, obviously, the masajid are mostly closed. But let's say the masjid is open. I hear the adhan. Now I say, oh, let me go and pray in the masjid. So now I am walking towards the masjid. And then eventually I arrive at the masjid. And let's say I wasn't frequenting the masjid before. So when I come to the masjid, people are surprised and people say, oh, welcome, brother. Thanks for coming. Oh, mashallah, Allah has brought you here today. Okay, so now, is their statement, Allah has brought me to the masjid, wrong? No, we will all agree, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought me to the masjid. That's the divine side, right? Okay, but now let's look at it from the human side. Didn't I already say I heard the adhan and then I made up my mind to go to the masjid? And then I walked to the masjid, and then I went there to pray. So we can describe them from the divine side or from the human side. So let's say now, first action, I heard the adhan. That's one N. That's one from the natural direction. But the same thing can be said from the 1D. Allah caused me to hear the adhan. All right, I walk to the masjid. So two, that's action number two. 2N, I walk to the masjid. That's from the natural side. But 2D, Allah took me to the masjid. So you see then that the same thing can be described either from the divine side or from the human side. And the Quran is going back and forth between the two. So we should be aware that when the Quran is mentioned the natural side, there is also a divine side. And when the Quran is mentioned the divine side, there is also a natural side. And the two are going together. As when we flip a coin, we can say that the head of the queen is spinning, or we can say that the caribou on the other side is spinning. They're both spinning together. They're two sides of the same coin. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala extends their tughyan, meaning at the same time, they are continuing their rebellion. They are extending their rebellion, and they are bewildered. They are like blind in this situation of their rebellion. And now to wrap it up very quickly then, Ulaika, this is the 16th verse, Ulaika alladhina اشتروا الضلالة بالهدى فما ربحت تجارتهم وما كانوا مهتدين. I'll read it one more time in the looking at the Arabic letters carefully, and then I'll look at the transliteration as well. أولئك الذين اشتروا الضلالة بالهدى فما ربحت تجارتهم وما كانوا مهتدين. Now looking at the transliteration, we will see what's different here. So أولئك الذين. Now you see this الذين does not start with its usual A. What has happened there is the A has been dropped, and we're going to use the A from the previous word. So أولئك الذين. We're going to join them together like that. That's why the A of الذين is dropped. الذين is a common Arabic word which means those people. It is a plural form. So أولئك الذين اشتروا الضلالة. So now we see here the اشتروا الضلالة. So it doesn't start with a vowel. What are we doing? We're using the vowel A from الذين. So الذين اشتروا الضلالة. Here too we have the dalala, which has a double D. The D is written twice, and it has no vowel at the beginning. So we're using the vowel from the previous word. اشتروا الضلالة. So we're joining it all together. So this one is a difficult one, I know, for those who are not accustomed to this, because we're joining word into word into word. So أولئك الذين اشتروا الضلالة. And then the rest becomes easy. بالهدى فما ربحت تجارتهم وما كانوا مهتدين. Okay, the meaning. They are the ones who bought error for guidance. So their trade did not profit them, nor were they guided. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is painting a picture of these people and showing their foolishness. And that first Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them guidance. And this now we have to realize is the default situation. A hadith says that every child is born on the fitra, on the natural disposition. The natural disposition is that human beings will serve and believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They'll believe in him and serve him. But there are environmental factors and other natural causes which turn the person away from Allah Azza wa Jal. So the person becomes a kafir, not by Allah making him a kafir, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes them naturally as being predisposed to belief, but environmental factors, social factors, and other situations may cause the person to go into disbelief. Now, when they go into disbelief, as is the case of these people, these munafiqun, these hypocrites, they are purchasing error. What are they using to purchase that error with? They are using the very guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them in the first place. So they have the guidance already, which is a gift already bestowed on them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the natural disposition, the fitrah. But they're trading that. Giving that away and taking the misguidance itself instead. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that they are purchasing the dalala, the misguidance, with the huda, with the guidance. They're using the guidance as the currency. They're trading that away. Of course, there's no such marketplace where somebody can say, okay, I have 3 pounds of of guidance, and I want to exchange that for 3 meters of misguidance. There's no such market. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us a graphic picture of their activities and showing what they're doing in a way that registers in the mind and shocks us. Like, oh, what's happening here? These people have been given the natural disposition by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do what is right and to believe in the guidance, but they're trading away that guidance. They're throwing it away. And they're taking the misguidance instead. It's as if they have made a false trade here, or they've gone into a bad deal here. So we go to the next verse. مثلهم كمثل الذي استوقد نارا فلما أضاءت ما حوله ذهب الله بنورهم وتركهم في ظلمات لا يبصرون. So looking at the transliteration, مثلهم كمثل الذي استوقد. So here we have a conglomeration of three words which are borrowing vowels from the previous word. So two of them are borrowing vowels from the previous word. So مثلهم كمثل الذي. So the الذي doesn't start with a vowel, but we are borrowing the vowel from the previous one. كمثل الذي استوقد. استوقد has lost its I vowel here, but we're borrowing the I vowel from the previous word, alladhi, and instead of making it long, alladhi, we're saying alladhis tawqada. We're making it short because of this joining. We know in English you have the word do not. You can make it don't by shortening. So many expressions in Arabic get a kind of shortening like this, where the vowels are elided like that. So reading it from the English transliteration one more time. مثلهم كمثل الذي استوقد نارا فلما أضاءت ما حوله ذهب الله بنورهم. So you see the same thing has happened with ذهب الله. ذهب الله. Allah does not have the A there. Allah, that's the name of Allah right there. But you see it doesn't have the A vowel at the beginning because we're going to take the A vowel from ذهب. In Arabic, the alif is written there, but in pronunciation, we are going over the alif. We're skipping the alif. And that's the same thing that's happening in the transliteration here. So, ذهب الله بنورهم وتركهم في ظلمات لا يبصرون. And here, I've done something here with ظلمات. So, ظلمات ends with an N. You can see that. But I'm not saying ظلمات when I'm reading it all together. If I'm just saying the word, I'll say this word is ظلمات. And it has an ending in, ظلمات. That's the grammatical form. We don't need to stall on that, the details of that now. But the word by itself is ظلمات. This is in the plural, darknesses. So in the grammatical position it is in this statement, in Arabic, it requires an in ending, ظلمات. But if I'm saying the word by itself, I might say ظلمات. But in the sequence, I have to join it with what comes later on, and it's ظلمات لا يبصرون. So when the noon ends one letter, and the next letter is the lam, we are eliding the noon into the lam. So we're saying ظلمات لا يبصرون, and we're making the L doubled in that case. So like the N has converted into an L. So now we have two L's in our pronunciation and no N at the end there. So ظلمات لا يبصرون. Okay, now we're going to look at the English translation. Their parable is, and of course we're missing a space there that I need to correct. Their parable is that of one who lighted a torch, and when it had lit up all around him, Allah took away their light and left them sightless in a manifold darkness. So the example of these people Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying is like if you imagine somebody in the darkness of night, let's say who was camping, he now lit his campfire. Now he has light all around him. But when this light came all around him, let's say the rain started to fall and washed away this campfire. Well, then now he's left in darkness again. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about Allah taking away his light. It's not like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spitefully decided to take away the light of this person. There are natural things happening. The rain comes by a sort of natural causation and washes away the camp. So his campfire is gone. Um, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, okay, think of that situation. The person went, he lit his light, he got light now, but the rains came, washed away his campfire. Now he's left in the darkness. Now, what about the person who is this munafiq, this hypocrite? He is like the person who had the light already provided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now he has traded this light for darkness. Now he has darkness. And the darkness is making it impossible for him to see. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took away the person's darkness, just like the rain would come and wash away the campfire. But at the same time, again, I cannot emphasize enough because the point has been so misunderstood. Just ask me about this in case it still needs some further elaboration, because everything needs time to absorb. And sometimes when people hear about an idea for the first time, they want to understand it and accept it, but they need more clarification. So do ask me. So these people, these munafiqun, they traded away the guidance, they took misguidance instead. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that's like the person who lit the campfire. He had the light already, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took away his light, so he's left in darkness. And then the next verse, then summun bukmun umyun fahum la yarji'un. They are deaf, dumb, and blind, and they will not come back. Now, I need to pay attention to the English transliteration here again, because we have some eliding going on by one word being joined to another one. So we see summun, but I'm not saying summun, I'm saying summum bukmun. That's because the noon is being elided into the B sound. Instead of N, we're going to say M because the lips are going to touch here. Summum bukmun, umyun fahum la yarji'un. So deaf, dumb, and blind, they will not come back. So now these people have gone so far that they're not going to come back to the right path. That's why in the case of some people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Sawa'un alayhim anzartuhum am lam tundirhum. It's the same for them, whether you warn them or do not warn them. La yu'minun, they're not going to believe. So they're left like this. Now, the 19th verse, and just two more verses to go, we'll wrap this up in a moment. أو كصيب من السماء فيه ظلمات ورعد وبرق يجعلون أصابعهم في آذانهم من الصواعق حذر الموت والله محيط بالكافرين. Or that of a rainstorm. So the example of these people is like, here's another example. It's like the rainstorm from the sky, wherein is darkness, thunder, and lightning. They put their fingers in their ears due to the thunderclaps, apprehensive of death, and Allah besieges the faithless. But here, the faithless are not just simply those like our neighbors who have not heard much about the religion of Islam. These are people who were actively opposed to the religion of Islam. So we spoke about the kafirun. Now the term kafirin is being used here as well, because these hypocrites are essentially kafirin, but they're not accepting it. I mean, are not in the public. When they come to Muslims, they're saying we are believers. When they go back to their shayateen, then they say we are kuffar like you. We deny as well. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling them what they are. They are actually kafirin. But in the Muslim society, they will be treated as believers, because once they come in and confess and say we are believers, we just accept them as such. So it is like this. Their example is like this. Like, you know, when you think about this lightning coming in, they're putting their fingers in their ears, afraid of the thunderclaps, apprehensive of death. In fact, in the end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is warning them they cannot save themselves from Allah azza wa jal. So coming now to the last of these verses for tonight, يَكَادُ الْبَرْقُ يَخْطَفُ أَبْصَارَهُم كُلَّمَا أَضَاءَ لَهُم مَشَوْا فِيهِ وَإِذَا أَظْلَمَ عَلَيْهِمْ قَامُوا وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَذَهَبَ بِسَمْعِهِمْ وَأَبْصَارِهِمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. The lightning almost snatches away their sight. Whenever it shines for them, they walk in it. And when the darkness falls upon them, they stand. Had Allah willed, He would have taken away their hearing and their sight. Indeed, Allah has power over all things. So these munafiqun who are going back and forth between the light of the Muslim community on the one hand and the darkness of disbelief on the other hand, they are like this person who is trying to walk when the lightning shines. So they're there, the night is dark, the lightning comes, they see a little bit of light, they walk a little bit, then it's totally dark, they don't know where to step next. They wait for the next lightning, they walk a little bit, then they see the light again, and then they're stalled. So the munafiqun are like this. They come to the Muslims, they get some guidance, they proceed a little bit with that guidance, they go back to the disbelievers, they say, we are with you, and now they're still in the darkness, they cannot advance any further. When they come back to the Muslims again, they'll get a little bit more light, and this is their situation. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is warning them that Allah is powerful over all things. So I'm going to leave it at that. That's so much for my discussion of these surahs. I will now turn to your questions and comments. And I want to thank you for your patient listening. And I realize that it has gone a little bit longer than I was even planning for. I kept saying I'm going to end soon. I was hoping for that, but I got caught up with the details of pronunciation, plus this difficult problem of trying to explain the alternation between the divine causation and the human causation, and how that is represented in the Quran and how it has been misunderstood, and it needs to be correctly understood. So let me now pause here. We'll end the live stream, and then I will turn to the questions from the local community. Thank you all. Jazakumullah khairan. Oh, and let me give you a heads up of what will happen for next week. So let me just very quickly draw your attention back to where we have traveled with this. So we said that verses 1 to 5 that we did last week was about the believers. And tonight we covered verses 6 to 7 about the deniers of faith, alladhina kafaru, those who disbelieve. And we covered verses 8 to 20, which was about the hypocrites, the munafiqun. Now, moving ahead next week, we will see that verses 21 to 29 are about the creation of the world. And to see this progression of how we got from one topic to another, let me just summarize this by putting it in this way. There are three different approaches to the Quran. And as a kind of an introduction to this surah and to the Quran as a whole, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us these three different approaches. Verses 1 to 5 about the believers was about the positive approach. The believers are going to approach the Quran. This is the word of God. Take it positively. Verses 6 to 7, this was about the deniers of faith. What is their approach to the Quran? Negative. They don't want to hear anything about this. It's all, denied from the start. Verses 8 to 20 is about the hypocrites. What's their approach? It's wavering. They're with the believers. They're saying, we believe in this and these revelations. They go back to the disbelievers. They're saying, no, we're like you. We disbelieve in these revelations. So these are three different approaches. So after describing these three approaches, that's when this surah will turn to a description of the creation of the world and take us through the history, and then give us specific instructions within for life within our own community as part of that unfolding history of the world. So finally, and to summarize it in a most succinct form, verses 1 to 20, which we have studied so far, there are about the different approaches to the Quran. And then verses 21 to 29, which we will study next week, is about the creation of the world. And as a preparation for understanding the whole history of the world and our place in it, the Quran has detailed three different approaches and is really calling on us to choose our position. And obviously, our position is that of the believers. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us as believers and help us to understand His book. Thank you all again for joining me in this discourse. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you, all of you, and your loved ones. Keep you all safe and healthy, and bless you and the entire world and everyone around you. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.